So good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining in. I hope more people pour in as we get started. Thanks, my panel members, for accepting the invite, and thanks for coming over here as well. Some interesting probes we have gotten as far as the cloud concerns, but I just want to tee it up by talking about what are we really noticing in the Indian market and some of the trends globally when it comes to cloud technologies. So in past 2 to 3 years, and all of us have seen it, pandemic has given us a good boost, and it has also proven to be one of the major levers while organizations have. This is okay. Sorry. Why organizations have opted for cloud in many different ways, especially in terms of the way they used to look at before as a cost or the infra setup. Few technologies which is actually now getting more traction with every sector and every organization is also being promoted by the fact that 5G has become a reality. And therefore, the advanced technologies which rides on the power of cloud computing and also 5G, such as metaverse, we would have heard about it yesterday, the physical robotics, and I'll request Rakesh to speak a lot about it because he comes from that sector, enabling the Ola factories. You will hear some real life experiences there. And some of the advanced analytics and artificial intelligence-led initiatives, which are specifically powered by the GPU-enabled computing of the cloud providers. We haven't heard this before, but what we have heard before is how cloud is enabled to relatively low fidelity use cases, which are mostly in and around regular problem statements of the organization, which has been erstwhile being dealt by the legacy technology. So with that teeing up, let me just get started and invite all three of you with our first basic question, which is, India as a country has seen a huge surge in the cloud adoption. And therefore, many organizations have started, in fact, to give a body to what digital initiatives really mean for them. And it depends upon which sector they come from. What is your sense in terms of the maturity, of the cloud adoption within the Indian organization? And how could you even define that what could a digital initiative perhaps be meaning when you think about the cloud as a enablement? So Narottam, let me start with you, and then we can go to Prakash and Rakesh.
So hi, thanks Abhinav for setting the right context, and good morning everyone. So before I get to cloud-led digital strategy, let me say that, and this is my analogy and this is how I think now in 2022, that the digital transformation or digital become the mainstream and a discussion point, and Rakesh was saying that COVID became a board member, so which has accelerated this entire adoption. So what I feel, digital transformation or digital strategy work on these 3C principle, which I believe largely, which it enables either the country, either the corporate or a citizen by the capacity and capability. And if you look at in these three model, capacity and capability where cloud help for an organization to achieve the value out of the cloud computing and the cloud technology as well. Let's take an example when I talk about country. India, in the COVID time, we all have used this app called CoWIN. Now, CoWIN has been used by every citizen of the country who are eligible for this vaccination and everything. Just understand that size of infrastructure, size of capability what you need can't be embraced until unless you have that kind of a technology which can help you to have a fast adoption, fast scale, and understand this capacity. Same way, if you look at digital from a perspective of you had net banking, you had, which was probably happened 20 years before. At that time, it was not cloud, but it was a capacity which was get used, and it was a technology-led initiative. Today, everything is happening by tech. Today, if we talk about, we moved from siloed digital initiative to a connected initiative. And it moved from siloed infrastructure to, say, cloud, and then the hybrid cloud, and then the multi-cloud. But the industry is moving towards a connected cloud, where you will have sensors across at different places. You will have multiple companies coming together and creating an architecture to deliver back to the customer. And in that concept, what I feel, the adoption of cloud is going to be much, much higher than what we have seen so far. And the companies definitely need to work upon a forward-looking architecture to embrace that change and come forward to see that how it can help them to be relevant in the coming time. So that's what I feel.
A quick 2 minute bite from you, just to tee it up. Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, thank you. I think I personally feel the cloud is, it's maturing. It boils down to the experience. There are enterprises who started with bare metal implementations. There are enterprises who has done this Hadoop implementations, then hybrid, then polycloud, where you can orchestrate multiple hyperscalers. So things are evolved, but what it matters is the business value. Uh, every enterprise has to be business value driven. So that part is missing. So everybody is jumping onto the bandwagon of these cloud implementations. But end of the day, it's the business value, the drivers, and the respective levers which are impacting the drivers. And eventually, you have to come up with those business initiatives or the use cases or the capabilities which are going to fulfill the cloud adoption. Thank you.
Just adding on what Narottam and Prakash has spoken about, what I am seeing is that in the last 5 years, especially in India, with digital India initiatives, I think definitely enterprises and more so government is clearly adopting cloud. Today, people don't think twice. Earlier, we used to think about, since many of us have grown up through the traditional ladder of information technology, you would think about a space, you'll think about servers, you'll think about all of that. Today, it's given. Just to give you some statistics, about 40% in this world were single cloud adopters until 2020. Here comes a new board member called COVID, and you come to 22 and 23, that number is touching as high as 80%. So it's no way anybody can stop this kind of what I call evolution which is happening, and we will see more and more adoption. In India, everywhere you go and talk, there are 75 plus use cases. Narottam spoke about CoWIN. Look at Aadhaar. Look at UPI. Look at what stuff is happening in the agricultural sector. Everywhere you will have use cases of cloud. Now, yes, there are different models. There are different forms. And that's a function of maturity, A, of what you are trying to solve, and B, your organizational appetite at the same time. Because, being a Lola, given our mobility business where we have, millions of hits a minute, you need a very different kind of an architecture and a setup versus a typical B2B kind of a business model. So I think we are on the uptick clearly. And now, from single cloud, it's a multi-cloud opportunities and scale up which are coming around, if I may say it.
And I think I'll just stay with you for a while, Rakesh, because you lead a business which has really disrupted some legacy mobility business. So there are several digital natives which have definitely posed an existential risk to several legacy business. From your hands-on experience, what would be your advice to some of the businesses? How could they really leverage cloud in terms of disrupting their own ways of working? And some nice examples from the factory which you actually run.
So I think it all starts with what you want to change or transform. Is cloud the answer for everything? Answer is no. Because there is no silver spoon that you can just go and solve all of it. You have to pick your use cases. The advantage which we had is being a digital native ourselves a decade ago when we started our consumer mobility business, popularly called Ola Cabs. We started with completely cloud. And my always think on looking at cloud strategy is driven by 2-3 attributes. One is data. Since you're dealing with data, sometimes it is sensitive data, sometimes at the speed you want to process that data. If you keep that at the centerpiece, your architectures and solutions on cloud will differ. Point one. Point two, which is equally important, is your ability to respond from your organizational standpoint. And when I say respond, I'm not talking about from a technology layer standpoint. I'm looking at holistically from a macro. So we have to keep that as well. And when I say the second point, remember the underlying thing is your organizational processes. they have to be very supportive or agile and flexible. Otherwise, what will happen is you may have technology to enable it or catapult it, but you may not have the processes and the operating rhythm below which can take advantage of that.
And if I can come here, Rakesh, sorry to but the speed at which Ola produces
Yeah.
and has turned around its products, we haven't seen an age-old automotive manufacturer producing the product and make it available on the road. And I don't think so. It's just about speed. A lot of tech has gone in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So something on that.
So it's all about tech deep.
Yeah.
You know, clearly, I think the new generation is all about deep tech, going as much deeper than honestly going wider. Good news is there are solutions available, whether you look at with hyperscalers, whether you look at with your private cloud, or a hybrid, whichever model you want to pick. There are solutions available, and one has to really understand the use case. Like I said, look at the cabs kind of a business where you get millions of hits per minute, right? Seeking a booking or a request versus you come to a EV sales kind of a model, which is a completely direct to customer sale model, right? And we have, in our peak hours, we have got thousands and thousands, sometimes 80, sometimes 100,000 hits a minute. So you need a different scaling infrastructure as you do it, and cloud clearly, provides you that agility to take it up or bring it down to the normal levels when there are those lean periods or mute periods from that standpoint. But working on compute, working on storage, and as I'm seeing more and more as we progress to new product lines, the demand on increasing tremendously, multifold actually, on compute and storage and the cores. And that is going to be, a problem to be solved. But I think the solutions are there, if not in the so-called EV automotive kind of a space, but definitely look at aviation, look at industrial businesses from energy standpoint. They have solved these problems worldwide at a much larger scale when it comes to compute and storage. So I'm pretty confident we'll be able to solve for this market as well.
Yeah. And we'll touch upon some of the use cases in the cloud tech later on in a few minutes. Narottam, you have had an opportunity to transform an IT services organization from where it was and where it is now. I think it'll be very interesting to know that some of the tech interventions which you have considered in order to change the ways of working, especially in your sector.
Especially for...
yeah, for your
okay.
services, yes.
See, what I believe that any digital transformation has to deliver the outcome in 3 areas, which is ROE. One is around revenue, the another is operational excellence, and third is around experience. And when I talk about experience, it's a connected experience. It might be your customer, it might be your internal employee, it might be your partner or anyone. So as a collectively, either you are helping in revenue generation, you are helping in operational excellence, which help you from a margin, and third, which you are helping from a perspective of experience for people. When we devise our strategy for Mestech, we devise it on 3 fundamental blocks. One is that what we need to do at a foundation layer, which is non-compromisable from an accelerated growth path what we want to take. Second is how do we ensure that we have a scalability and repeatability when we do our inorganic growth. And third is how do we make aspirational move to have, let's say, aspiration today might be that how do we have a data-driven culture and we do not do any review without the data available in hand real time rather than working on a PPTs. So that is the 3 foundation layer what we worked out. How we devised it, what kind of a platform intervention we need to bring from a cloud point of view, how do we ensure we have a right digitization of processes across different functions, and how do we create an architecture which has an integration layer in between so that we can create a value chain, and how do we automate the different processes in different function from a scale and from an efficiency. And fifth, which is a very important aspect what we created around, is intelligence. That how do we make Mestech intelligent as an organization to take decisions at a faster speed, to take benefit out of the market at a speed level. So these are 5 major areas what we touched upon. Very important aspect which we are working right now is around, all tech companies have a challenge around people supply chain. And this is exactly what we are working right now, that how do we ensure that the skills which are available internally, how do we reutilize, rebuild, and how do we bring intelligence into that space to have a better utilization, a better deployment of people by the intervention of a tech. So that's something which we are solving. And then how do we work on better recruitment from outside? while there are many other things which you are doing from a hybrid working point of view, hybrid workplace, but that's altogether different, that you enable people to work from the native country they belong to and is still secure. So that's what largely what we are.
And in fact, I'll take up a cue and coming to Prakash, Infosys came out with very innovative product, which is Cloud Cobalt. And it's not easy what they have been accomplished to do. And I think what I would love to know from you, Prakash, is when you think about a lot of entrepreneurs, startup ecosystem, and the large enterprises, the innovation what Infosys has done, especially pivoting around cloud, which is Cobalt, what are you really seeing? What is the benefit and how have it helped the businesses which are digital natives and legacy as well?
Sure.
Keeping in the context of the Cobalt what you have.
Sure. So in fact, the way we envisioned this whole thing is we were early adopters of cloud. So we preach before we implement within Infosys. So we have built around 77,000 plus cloud assets. We have built around 150 architecture blueprints. I just want to ensure that we don't go with one-size-fit-all architecture. So based on our expertise across all the domains, across all the segments, we have come up with those architecture blueprints. Add to that, we also partnered with the SaaS partners. We have partnered with the academia. We have partnered with the hyperscalers. And these partnerships are very, very important while we are implementing the cloud implementations. The reason is you derive by connecting all these ecosystem, right? So gone are the days where a single system delivering the services, right? Those monolithic stuff is gone. Now we are marching towards the ecosystem, the platform-based solutions where you have your own cloud data warehouse, you have your own cloud data lakes, you have your own data coming from vendors, suppliers, partners, and academia. So there is data monetization as well. So when there is data flowing from disparate systems, disparate parties, then there is a whole lot of business value. And what we have done is we created our own living labs where you provision the infrastructure for customers to come and use that environment as a playground and derive the business value. And the reason for that is we want to get some quick wins. We want them to fail fast. We want them to increase the velocity of ideas. We want them to increase the velocity of responsiveness. They should be able to react to the market dynamics. So whatever their external example is COVID, right? We want to react to that COVID situation. So how do you make it responsive? So how do you make it agile? How do you make it speed? And at the same time, we also partnered with a lot of startups, entrepreneurs, right? So that we get that agility and speed.
And I mean, it's a right segue. We spoke about some of the latest trends in cloud. And I think the time is right where even the providers have now moved on from tactical interventions of the cloud. And a lot have been being attempted around framing industry clouds which are catering to specific sector needs. And Rakesh, I'll start with you. So there's a bit of a fascination around Ola, what they do, how they do it. They're known for speed and agility. I think it'll be great to know that from the context of the factory production and the concept of the industry cloud, and with the advent of 5G, a lot of AI being available, robotics being deployed on shop floor, how does this all come together? And does it pretty much give me the sense of this could be the advent of the industry cloud, say for the automotive sector? How do you see it? What's your observations?
Very good question. Actually, the entire design of the factory was based on Industry 4.0 principles, right from the day one. So the entire stuff around smart operations, smart supply chain management, inbound, outbound, your store keeping, right, which are the typical factory aspects as you start getting into manufacturing. I think our entire thinking started with, we refer to ourselves as technology-led product company. Yeah. You know, I still sometimes, what I call, get a pause when I use the word automotive, because, you know, we are putting so much technology into it, and thankfully EV is kind of a product where you have a lot of technology, whether you call it from a battery standpoint, motor standpoint, controls, how do you manage it? And on factory, exactly what we have done. When it comes to quality, on the assembly line, we have, I think, 8 or 10 gates where we monitor all of this real time as the production is happening. And based on the 4.0 principles, clearly. Same thing happens between work order management, logistics, supply chain, supplier quality, which is a bigger aspect, because better the supplier quality, the likelihood of the vehicle having a higher pass ratio by the time it's manufactured is going to be very high. So we are now working with suppliers directly on introducing this quality. And everywhere, we are applying the rules of no paper as much as we can leverage technology, creating data and analytics layer on top of it so that the management and also the operating leaders can have visibility. Some of this is also getting regulated. I'm sure you all guys are aware about the battery traceability norms which have come up in the country. So some we have to also do it from that standpoint. But our entire thinking from day one has been tech deep, put at every level, whether it's at the paint shop, weld shop, battery, motor, assembly, and have those quality gates which are enabled. And all of these have world-class technology platforms, and real-time dashboarding using lean principles, and on screens, Kanban, all those good stuff which comes along so that the people on the floor and the quality and the manufacturing teams have a real-time access. So that's how we are driving it.
That's great. And before I get on to the next one, so within the audiences, please feel free to have any questions in between. I see some crowd swelling up. It's a good sign. Okay. So scalability. Now, we all knew that cloud definitely provided some of the scalable options in the on-prem. But as organizations have started furthering to think about the deep usage of the data, specifically around, say, artificial intelligence, cognitive intelligence-related use cases, even physical robotics, or even 5G. I'm just repeating it because it makes sense. Narottam, to you, some of the best practices or some of the failed options which organizations should not really do now as they think about scalability and continue to opt for the use cases which are specifically now riding upon the advanced technology within the cloud.
Sure. So, as I said in the previous comment, that foundation is very strong for you and very important for you when you look from any aspect of tech-driven transformations. When it comes to scalability, the few things which we have seen, let's say a few years before, the focus used to be more around buying a product to solve a specific problem. But today, when we are moving, people are moving from product to a platform approach. Platforms give you more simplified, less overhead management, and a better scale at a speed. Second is, if you are a global company and you have a plan to have a global expansion, the regulatory compliances are changing at a speed of nothing like it. So you have to find a partner who can be good enough for you from your long-term perspective. You should not look for a partner from a scalability point of view that who does not have those compliances focused into his product or his platform or the tech what he's delivering. Third, which is very important, that as Rakesh mentioned, that Ola thought of a technology-driven factory rather than a product-driven organization. You have to have a very strong enterprise architecture and a tightly integrated architecture design when you look from a scale point of view. And fourth is, as you grow, there's a lot of observability which you need, which will help you to have the cost optimization, workload movement, which will help you to know how your clouds at a different level are performing, even from a security point of view. So what I say, architecture is a key, platform approach is a key. Third is the partner and the platform which you choose should have a capability from compliances and other point of view as well to help you to grow. And fourth is around the observability which help you to monitor and know what is happening across so that you always have this handle that how you are optimizing the cost. Because cloud, while it gives you a value, but it sometimes becomes an elephant which becomes very difficult to manage. So you need to ensure from the beginning that how you are going to manage it from a cost and other perspective. So these are the four.
Yeah, and I think it gives me a minute. Maybe I'll just take about 30 seconds. Please. Folks, we need a mic there if possible. Okay.
Hi, am Rakesh Sharma. I run a codeless technology on the cloud. Now, now the problem that I'm facing, I've been always on cloud, almost like 20 years now, when we started very early with my startups. Now, the problem that I see here is that, for example, we launched a very big application with a very large company, and the application is fully on the cloud. We are facing problems where we see that we are unable to isolate the problem, in the sense that whether the problem is the handshake of a mobile application with the cloud, whether it is the GPS, or whether it is the 4G connection, whether it is the token not getting generated, whether it is the Apache APIs that are not connecting properly. What is happening is, for example, recently we had a problem where Google automatically updates their SSLs. Yes. Now we do SSL pinning because that is the requirement of a VAPT prerequisite for an enterprise. Now we need to unshell that because the SSL update are stopping the application in a particular region. Now, when you look at a connected cloud environment, you are in a factory, it's totally captive. It's almost like having a server in your own environment. But when you're looking at multiple partners, vendors, and we being the application or solution providers, there are distributors, there is a customer like the enterprise that is selling the product, and I'm providing the cloud. There is AWS, there is Google, there is iOS. All of us are talking together because the app is on iOS, app is on Android, and it's also a web URL. So now this kind of a challenge I'm not able to understand, because we had this problem of having a common, I would say, policies over cloud. Sometimes it was a policies with 5G communication so that the gateways would function properly. So these are the challenges. I don't know whether this is being addressed as of now, and did you guys feel that as a challenge?
Please.
So I think that, firstly let me say that is a known challenge. On an on-premise kind of an environment, a lot of these are directly under your control. Still a challenge, but under your control, if I may say it. The minute you move this to a cloud kind of a setup, largely the hyperscalers, integration, interoperability, and the point I made earlier, business process and the organizational processes have to be relooked. Otherwise, this can absolutely become a big nightmare as you go through it. Now, other reality is, this is still evolving, because no more it is B2B world we are living in. I call it, it's more of B2B for C, which is your end customer, who is going to be actually consuming that particular service at the end of the day, right? So it's very important that in your design, these considerations are taken in. And what's the extent of tolerance you can have? Because you cannot be comparing this to on-prem, because if you keep comparing it, believe me, you will end up saying that is better, because I control my destiny relatively much better. I can turn it on, turn it off, I can go make a change over the night. That won't happen here. Yes, there are other ways to workarounds to do it, so keep that in your consideration. I have seen, even in my previous roles, that once we brought that kind of constraints or challenges into the design principles, right, the solutioning has been much easier. But the key thing, keep remembering, organizational processes and business processes have to evolve. If you don't change that, you will continue to have the same life of challenges. The other way of bringing it up, I would also say, I have seen a huge value in having roles or capabilities which are now amorphed, like an orchestration role, which is so pivotal. Cloud metering role, I still see 20 to 30% leakage on a month-to-month or a quarter-to-quarter basis. No wrong intent, but the way people spin it on and off, that's another role. The third is capacity management. These are some of those clear, from the experience, that you have to keep in mind, which typically you don't when it's an on-premise kind of a data center environment. But once you move to cloud, you'll have to bring them in. Anything you guys want to add?
Yeah, I think What I understand is there is a latency issue as well, right? So you are,
So there is latency. Sometimes there's a regional issue. You know, the app is working fine in the south, so it's not
Right.
working fine in the eastern region.
right.
Now, so these are the, and then sometimes people say, no, they blame the app. The app is not working.
Right.
And we have nothing to tell them. They look, everything is fine.
Right. So it's even the latency through APG is not able to make calls. The endpoint connections are not getting established. So there is, the next, why we are saying the cloud is going to be the next adoption strategy, because the 5G is coming. Like there is so much of network slicing, network segmentation. So that is definitely going to solve, but that's not the solution right now. So you either, as Sir said, you have to go with the, enhancing your business process, that, how this whole interaction is happening in every hop. In every hop of your applications, what is the business process? How do we enhance it? How do we reprocess it? That's one thing which I can think through.
So the realization is by failures, that means. There is no prerequisite that I make a checklist to ensure that this doesn't happen. It's almost happening with failures.
Okay. So you want?
No, so I think both of them said, the only one thing which I'll say, that it's not a problem which you alone are facing. Even the biggest of the biggest name, if you talk about an industry, when we as a customer go to them, we also sometimes, let's say for example, in few CRMs, which a global system, which is a SaaS product, which is getting accessed at multiple countries, few places you say that it is working absolutely fine when you go for adoption. At another place, somebody says, it is too slow that I can't even enter.
Yeah.
And you go and talk to those people, they are also solving it. So let me just share it with you that yes, there's a problem, but yes, people are working towards it. The last point which I want to take, the trend which I have seen, probably we all have seen that news, recent partnership between Oracle and Microsoft, which probably would have never thought in past, right? That such companies will come together to collaborate to create an experience for people. So there's a lot of open architecture aspects which are coming in, which will help us to have those standards and those integration points, which will help us to connect. So from a closed loop environment, big SaaS companies, platform companies, even in the legacy, we have to create our own APIs and all, which get created to, and microservices connect to all this, and have an integrated world, which I said before, a connected world where you do not have a control on anything, but you still need to deliver the outcome which a customer wants. So it is an unsolved problem at this stage, but the industry is moving towards solving it as we experience the challenges. So that's what.
And you're going to be, don't hate me for this, but I'm going to take 5 extra minutes just to conclude. I have an important question. Just to coming to you, happy to discuss further. My initial reaction is, which we always see with the apps who are to be used nationally. So all the big names we know in the e-commerce industry have also faced it. And eventually they have gone to the regional concept of regional latency, which means if I'm somebody sitting in Itanagar, Arunachal Pradesh, my ability to get that experience on that app will be very different than somebody in the NCR region. And that's the reason you cautiously choose the placement of your immediate products which are fetched or which are rather recommended or looked into certain region, because not everything is looked into every region together. And therefore, the concept of something called as slicing the data based upon the personalization requests is everybody's going after. This simply means that you are decompartmentalizing your data and putting it into different edges so that I am not looking for say a YouTube video, which is on an edge server in the US, but maybe somewhere in the Doha or Dubai. And we can talk later further about it. Yeah. And thanks for granting me 5 minutes, although you didn't say yes and no to it. But I'm going to have one last question. So it's important, and I really want to go a bit deeper into it, 1 minute each. If you were to reflect upon your experiences, be it as a CXOs or tech leaders, in fact your careers as well, it's a bit reflective. What were the real opportunities which actually could realize by the cloud? Because a lot is being said in the research and survey reports, but if you were to really make it real, one example which you can really say, this is something which actually got pivoted around cloud. I know all of us are full with it, but one classic example which is very latest, I think it is of it.
Sorry, one thing which...
One latest example, real opportunity which you saw being pivoted around cloud. In
Make
your
it
own
happen on the
experiences.
cloud.
Yes.
I think it all starts with the customer. The entire concept of digital and automation has been there for decades. The entire customer journey transformation how do we elevate in not only in one geography but across multiple touch points, I would say has been the biggest kicker for me, which I've seen. But now let me wear the tech hat and also give another dimension. See, there are a bunch of challenges also in cloud. Let me not deny that. I think solving for compliances and cyber is continually becoming a challenging world going forward, because everybody wants it with speed and at scale at the same time. So these two, I think, keeps the best piece which I have seen, other than the technology, because technology will solve it. Back to that question, where I have seen cloud being successful is if we have transformed the process. Or differently, I would say, gone is the time when infrastructure was a constraint. Now applications have to start behaving differently for different use cases and for that data use case. If that comes into play, believe me, the infrastructure is available to play with it.
Thank you. Prakash, 10 seconds by.
Sure. I think delighting the customer with experience like never before. So we could able to bring in all the other bells and whistles like AI first. It's not just only the cloud first, but microservice first and so on and so forth.
So for me, I'll just say from IT services point of view, if we can cut the sales cycle by the use of automation by half, probably will help organizations to have a better revenue. So that's probably one area where I would like to explore. So I think rest everything has been said so.
And one last thing is it's no more the people, process and technology. It will be like people, planet and prosperity.
Great. And thank you so much for not making it tech. So I know it's all business. So thank you once again for taking questions and sharing your thoughts. Thank you. And thank you for asking the questions. We can connect later and talk more about it. Thanks for the opportunity. And we'll hope to see you forward now. Thanks very much once again.